Hello and welcome back to Nikki Scoops. If you're new here, welcome aboard. To my returning subscribers, I appreciate your loyalty. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means a lot. Thank you, and now let's head over to Maryland. A Maryland woman accused of murdering and dismembering her mother in a dispute over stolen money was convicted on Friday, capping an 8-day trial that revealed grim details of the killing and an attempted cover-up in which she sought to blame her own daughters. Candace Craig, 46, has been convicted of first and second-degree murder, among other charges, in the killing of Margaret Craig, 71. Prosecutors claim that the confrontation leading to the murder stemmed from Margaret Craig questioning her daughter about irregularities in her bank account over several months. In Prince George's County, a jury deliberated for less than an hour before delivering a verdict. After hearing over 30 witnesses and examining more than 600 pieces of evidence, prosecutors presented the case's facts. In May 2023, Craig suffocated her mother with a trash bag. The assault took place in the victim's bedroom of their shared home, following Margaret Craig's attempt to prevent theft. Craig's motive was to continue receiving the Social Security and pension funds without her mother being found. After Craig killed her mother, prosecutors said, she burned her body in the backyard. Then, she used a chainsaw to cut her up and grilled parts of her, using seasoning to mask the smell. Days later, during an interview with Prince George's County Police, prompted by concerned family members' calls that led to the grim find in the family home's basement, she accused her 2 daughters, who have disabilities, of their grandmother's murder. I recently lost my mom, and somehow this case just felt very powerful and personal for me, Assistant State's Attorney Shauna Coleman said at a news conference after the verdict was read. It really guided the way I felt this case needed to be shown to the jury, to understand how Candace Craig could not only do this to her own mother, but then to accuse her own children of murder, exposing them to potential life in prison. The defense attorneys informed the jury that Craig had misled the police regarding her mother's disappearance, yet they refuted any claims that Craig was responsible for her death. During the closing statements, they emphasized the medical examiner's conclusion that the cause of death was homicide by unspecified means, highlighting the absence of conclusive physical evidence of suffocation. Furthermore, Allison Heldreth, a lawyer representing Craig, pointed out that several individuals resided in the home when Margaret Craig died, suggesting that the investigation did not sufficiently consider these residents as potential suspects. It is indeed possible for someone to steal from their mother without committing murder, Heldreth, a lawyer with the Maryland Office of the Public Defender, informed the jury. They are attempting to demonize her. This is all designed to divert your attention from their insufficient evidence. Furthermore, Heldreth sought to question the credibility of a cooperating witness in the case, Margaret Craig's granddaughter, Salia Hardy, 21, who is charged with being an accessory after the fact to a murder. Craig has 3 daughters, Hardy, who has a disability and lived at home full-time with her mother and grandmother, a middle daughter with a disability, and the youngest, who was 12 at the time of the incident. According to prosecutors, Candace Craig started using her mother's debit cards to make unauthorized purchases in March 2023. Bank records indicate that Margaret Craig disputed these charges with Capital One and opened a separate account to protect her pension and Social Security income. Despite this, Candace Craig continued the fraudulent activity involving her youngest daughter in calling the bank to request new debit cards. Margaret Craig also reached out to her bank. In a recorded call presented in court, she informed Capital One, "I have no money to pay my bills." She requested the bank to dispatch the debit cards to a relative's address in D.C., which, according to prosecutors, indicated her awareness of the fraud originating from within her home. In May, prosecutors stated that Candace Craig's frustration reached a tipping point following a dispute during which Margaret Craig warned she would notify the authorities about her daughter. Hardy testified that on May 23, 2023, she was drawn downstairs by her grandmother's screams. A friend of Margaret Craig testified that she was on the phone with her when she suddenly cried out in fear. After that, the line went dead, and she never heard from her friend again. Approximately 1.5 hours later, according to prosecutors, Candace Craig contacted Capital One, impersonating her mother, to transfer $1,000 from Margaret Craig's bank account into her own. Craig warned Hardy against entering her grandmother's bedroom. However, Hardy ignored the warning. Upon entering, she discovered her grandmother with a trash bag over her head, crammed into a bin. Hardy and her youngest sister testified to witnessing their deceased grandmother's decomposing body in a bin for several days. Prosecutors stated that on May 25th, Candace Craig took Hardy and her youngest daughter to an IHOP dumpster to dispose of the bloodied carpet removed from Margaret Craig's bedroom. 2 days later, Craig and Hardy went to buy gasoline, carried Margaret Craig's remains to the backyard, and lit them ablaze, according to Hardy's testimony. Surveillance footage and receipts from Home Depot confirmed that a chainsaw was purchased by Craig on May 31st. Hardy testified that it was not until that day that family members arrived at the house to inquire about her grandmother's whereabouts. When they arrived, Craig was busy in the basement hacking Margaret Craig's body to pieces in a bin. Sometimes Hardy would glance downstairs and look at the body, she testified, recalling how her mother lifted up her grandmother's skull and declared, "This is the hard part right here," as she sliced into it. When questioned on the witness stand about her failure to inform the police and her lies regarding her grandmother's disappearance, Hardy explained that she acted under her mother's instructions. Her younger sister gave an identical explanation. Officers responded to the home that day after family members expressed concerns, but they left when Craig told them that it was not uncommon for her mother to leave without informing anyone. She expressed her resolve to notify the police should Margaret Craig fail to return. They came back on June 2nd, following a report to the police station that Margaret Craig was missing. Prosecutors stated that earlier that day, Craig had returned to Home Depot to purchase an additional chainsaw. During that visit to the residence, officers discovered the body parts. Heldreth contended that Hardy did not witness who was present in her grandmother's bedroom when she heard the scream. She further noted that Hardy's statement, which implicated her mother by saying Candace Craig did it to protect her daughters, lacked specificity. The defense requested an acquittal, but Judge Karen H. Mason of the Prince George's County Circuit Court denied the motion. Throughout the week, the courtroom was filled with family members of Margaret Craig. A native of Trinidad and Tobago, Craig was known for her love of Caribbean cuisine and her profession as a nurse, as testified by witnesses. They both smiled and wept as the jury announced guilty verdicts on all 4 counts: first-degree murder, second-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and disposing of a body in an unauthorized location. She was someone who worked hard all her life. She was providing for her grown daughter, who was living with her grandchildren. Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha N. Braveboy said after the verdict, "This is a giving, caring, loving, compassionate, and understanding woman who was killed, who was asphyxiated by her daughter, and make no mistake, Miss Candace Craig absolutely committed this crime, and she is now being held accountable. May her soul rest in peace. It's a heartbreaking story. Not having a mother myself, I would give anything to have her back. To think that someone could be so cold-hearted, soulless, and greedy is chilling. It's horrifying to realize that a life can be deemed worthless and discarded like trash, indicating the daughter's lack of care for her mother. I truly hope she faces justice for her actions by spending the rest of her life behind bars."
The daughter of a woman accused in a gruesome murder in Prince George's County takes the stand.
Candace Craig is charged with killing and dismembering her own mother. Her daughter testified today, recounting what her mother allegedly told her to do to help dispose of her grandmother's body. Fox 5's Lily Zane joins us live from Upper Marlboro. She is tracking the testimony, the dramatic testimony that went down today. Lily?
Angie, Kenneth, good evening to you. We just wrapped up court about an hour ago, and like you mentioned, this testimony, it was graphic. We are hearing from Craig's daughter, Celia. Now, keep in mind, she has already accepted a plea deal to accessory after the fact, and she says that part of her deal was to tell the truth at this trial. And we should warn you, some of the details she did share with the jury today, they are pretty disturbing details. So for background, again, we're talking about Celia Hardy. That is the then then 19-year-old daughter, she testified that she heard her grandmother scream inside of their Hill Road home in May of 2023. She says that she was instructed by her mother, Candace Craig, to not go inside of her grandmother's room. She eventually did, to find Margaret Craig's body in a bin and a trash bag over her head. She also told the jury that there was blood on the carpet, but her mother would not tell her exactly what happened. Hardy testified in the past hour today that it was her mother's idea to burn the body outside of the home a few days later. She said it did not go as planned, but neighbors started noticing that big fire. So she says her mother ordered a chainsaw and then began cutting the body up the next day. Now, the state did not finish questioning this witness, so they are expected to resume tomorrow morning. At that point, we will expect to hear from the defense attorneys for Candace Craig. Guys.
Such grisly testimony there today. The medical examiner also testifying today as well. What did they say about the case?
So the medical examiner really called this a, quote, unique case simply because the victim in this case, her body was not intact by the time it arrived to the medical examiner's office. In fact, the medical examiner testified that the body was in 9 bags, to be specific, and she said that there was 67 fragments of remains that were examined. Bottom line, as you know, with these medical examiners and these autopsies, you typically find out whether it was blunt force trauma, a shooting, a stabbing, something that led to this death. She says that she did not determine any of that. There was no evidence of natural disease that caused his death. So ultimately, it was ruled a homicide by undetermined causes.
Thank you for watching until the end of my video. Your loyalty as a viewer is greatly appreciated. Please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comment section below on any of these videos. I enjoy interacting with my audience, so don't hesitate to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. See ya in the next video.